331 lead extension. However, Renji's options were rather limited. The defender he had recently gotten past was right behind his tail, while even more defenders were charging towards him from up front. Keeping possession of the ball while trying to find his teammates, Renji moved the ball up front. The two of his team's wingers had yet to free themselves from their marks, while nobody else seemed available at the moment. Do I have to break through on my own? Unable to find his teammates, a thought penetrated his mind. But just as he was about to pull the unthinkable by taking Aomori's impressive defensive line all by himself, he heard someone asking for a pass. Pass here. Hiro, who was getting chased by his mark, had shook his mark and was rushing towards him, coming to his aid. Immediately upon witnessing Hiro's arrival, he struck the ball with his heel while moving the ball forward. The way he operated himself made it seem like he was actually trying to break through. But who he knew that he was going to pass? Countless people present in the stand was mesmerized and perplexed by Renji's passing, while the defenders who were rushing towards him were fooled by him as well. The owner of the ball may have changed, but their objective hadn't changed even a little. They still had to disrupt this build-up and stop the opposing team from advancing forward. Determined to stop the opposing players, no sooner had Renji made this unbelievable pass, they shifted their attention towards Hiro and rushed towards him. But they couldn't leave Renji alone as well. Thus, while most of them rushed towards Hiro, one of them rushed towards Renji. Standing tall in front of him like a massive boulder, the one who was supposed to stop Renji tried to make use of his body as a meat shield to block Renji's path. Renji, however, like a slippery eel, easily got past the opposing defender who was trying to stop him from advancing forward. The method he used to get past that massive defender was quite mesmerizing and creative as well. Making use of his excellent footsteps as he approached close to the opposing defender, he abruptly changed his direction all of a sudden. Or so he made it seem. The moment the opposing defender reacted, he swiftly turned his body and made a 180-degree turn. Smoothly executing this flashy move, he then changed his direction, tricking the defender and getting past him without breaking any sweat. Hiro, who was keeping his eyes on Renji, perfectly timed his pass as he lobbed the ball right above the heads of the incoming defenders. During this process of making pass to Renji, Hiro was extremely careful about timing. A second's delay could end this play by ruling this build-up as offside. If it was before the time he had joined Kawasaki, or if it was during the time when he was just starting to play with Hiro, he wouldn't have made this pass. In fact, he would have even tried to break through or shoot from the distance. But having played with Hiro, he knew that if he were to position himself in a good position, he would receive the ball back with almost 100% certainty. And right now, as he noticed the shadow of the ball, his eyes sparkled with joy. He then smoothly trapped the ball and struck a brilliant volley before the ball could even hit the ground. The ball, as it left his feet, it sailed towards the post. However, an obstacle stood between him and the post. The obstacle was none other than the keeper of the opposing team. Call it his arrogance or call it his confidence. Right after Renji shot the ball towards the post, he took his eyes off the ball. It was like he knew with certainty that the ball would end up inside the post. And surprisingly, it did as well. As for the confirmation, an euphoric roar erupted from the crowd. Goal all! Throwing his fist towards the sky with a smirk on his face, he displayed a complacent look on his face after hearing the deafening sound of celebration echoing from the stand. Enjoying the adoration he was receiving from the crowd, without budging even an inch, he stood tall right at the place where he had scored this magnificent volley with his eyes closed, basking in the momentary glory. Right now, it seemed like he was lost in the world of his own. And only after did his teammates come to his side did he finally open his eyes. Bodies collided as players of Kawasaki hugged and high-fived each other. But unlike Renji, who until this moment had yet to speak anything, they were rather loud. Damn, who taught you to score like this? Yeah, yelling at each other, they pushed and hugged each other while celebrating the goal. With their actions on the field, they were making quite a scene while celebrating. Hiro, on the other hand, wasn't fond of such barbaric way of celebrating. Thus, he kept some distance from his teammates who right now were acting as barbaric soldiers after a victory. Still, Although he wasn't fond of such way of celebrations, didn't mean that he was happy about the outcome. He may not have expressed his happiness on his face or on his actions, but albeit he was happy about the outcome just as his teammates were about it. Just like this, before the end of the first half, they took a 2-goal lead. Already the first goal was putting a lot of pressure on the opposing team, but with this second goal, it would rise even a level further. Who knows what kind of error they would make due to this pressure? Well, there's also a possibility that they might succumb to the pressure and falter apart. And with this second goal, Hiro also extended his assist tally to a whopping 13 assists in the league despite missing many of the matches because of the qualifier. 332 fan interaction. Beep. The first half came to an abrupt end as the referee sounded his whistle. No sooner had the referee blown his whistle to announce the end of the first half. Manager of Aomori strode towards the tunnel with a rather grumpy look on his face. The mere fact that he didn't even wait for the players to exit the pitch was enough to tell how furious and worked up he was at the moment. At once, all of the players present on the field halted their movements. Some heaved a sigh of relief, while some kicked the grass out of frustration. Good game, guys. Let's keep up this performance in the second half as well and win this game. Just like on the pitch, where both laughter and distress was quite evident. In similar fashion, people in the stands were also divided into two separate groups. One was the group which supported Kawasaki, who were filled with elation, and the other was the group which supported Aomori, who were filled with disappointment and frustration. And the reason behind this division was displayed in huge number right now at the massive screen of the stadium. Kawasaki 2 and Aomori 0. Those simple-looking number was the reason behind the partition of the mood in the stadium. Slowly, players of Kawasaki, while cheerfully chatting with each other, walked out of the field, while players of Aomori followed suit, but with a bitter face. Hiro, please look here. Rinji, please give me your autograph. As players of Kawasaki made their way towards the tunnel, several fans called out the names of the players that were rather famous. How did you like my goal? Slightly slicking back his black hair, Rinji asked those fans who were calling out his name. A smirk adorned his face while his eyes were glowing with pride. It was the best. Almost at the same time, some group of fans, which consisted mostly of girls, responded in their girly voice. The way they were fawning over Rinji made it seem like they were charmed by him. Well, given the way he looked, it wasn't that big of a surprise since young girls liked anybody with pretty appearance. Noticing those group of fangirls fawning over Rinji, Hiro felt like throwing up while Shun and many other boys contorted their face in envy. The way they gritted their teeth and glared at Rinji made it seem like they were about to chew him alive. Hiro wanted to scoff, but he was in no better position himself, as well, since there were quite a lot of fangirls who were shouting his name in the stands. But one particular boy in the stand caught his attention. It was the same little boy whom he had met in airport. The only difference was that now he was with his friends. Turning his gaze towards them, Hiro slightly curled the corner of his lips and displayed a warm smile on his face. Waving his hand towards them, he addressed those group of little boys who were calling out his name with joy written all over their face. The way they looked at him made it quite obvious that those groups of boys respected and loved him a lot. Receiving their adoration, Hiro felt a sensation of warmth rising for the depth of his body. Moments like this made it worth being a football player. See, I told you that big brother Hiro will notice us. As Hiro and the rest walked out of the pitch, Kota spoke cheerfully with pride and joy brimming on his eyes. Yeah, but I'm quite perplexed about his earlier behavior. You're talking about that first goal, right? Yeah. Why did he give it away? Does he not feel like scoring goals today? Those groups of boys chatted among themselves about the match. Fool. Fool. With his brows knotted and his eyes brimming with pride and confidence, Kota displayed a prudent expression on his face. Immediately, his visuals caught the attention of all his friends who were discussing about Hiro's earlier action. Turning their face towards him, they curiously looked at him while expecting for an answer they were not aware of. Do you know something about it, Kota? Asked one of the boys with curiosity brimming in his eyes. Of course I know about it. Maintaining his demeanor, Kota answered in confident tone. Then tell us. Immediately, all his friends began to insist. Enjoying their enthusiasm, Kota then began to give his own explanation, You might not be aware, but that goal scorer and big brother Hiro used to be teammates in the U15 team previously. But because of big brother Hiro's talent, he immediately got promoted to the U18 team. I see. So he did it to help his friend, right? How many times did we practice for this match? A loud voice filled with fury echoed in the locker room of Aomori High School. Yet you still keep on repeating those same mistakes I warned you about. That voice filled with fury belonged to the coach of Aomori High School, who previously had abruptly walked out of the pitch right after the halftime whistle. Currently, while all his players were seated silently at their seat, he was standing in the middle of the room, spewing fire out of his mouth while shooting daggers with his gaze towards his player. The state of the players right now was akin to a dog that was being scolded by its owner. They could only listen to his words, filled with fury, while tucking their tails. Experiencing his players' silence, manager of Aomori furrowed his brows before heaving a deep sigh to calm himself down. Sure, he was agitated and disappointed at his players, but the time he had on his hand was rather limited. And if he continued to vent his anger, he would only shorten that time even more. Thus, instead of continuing to vent his anger, he then started to explain his strategy and countermeasure to turn the tides of the match. After all, no matter how much frustrated he was with his players, he still was their coach, and he had to do his duty before lecturing them. In second half, whenever Hiro drops deep, don't chase him. Instead, watch out for other players and block his route to advance forward. Do you get it? Chapter 333, Anti-Hero Tactic. After a 10 minutes break, players of both the team once again re-entered the field for the continuation of the second half. Unlike their attitude in the first half, right now players of opposing team seemed rather calm and collected. It was like as if they were no longer bothered by the fact that they were tailing behind the opposing team by 2 goals. Sure enough, something had taken place in their locker room to have such vivid changes. Meanwhile, players of Kawasaki were overflowing with confidence. The strategic discussion had went well, and most of them could already see them winning this game. So why wouldn't they be happy? For his blunders in the first half, Yuya had been replaced, while the opposing team hadn't made any changes in their roster. They were going to play with the same set of players who had started this match. Obviously, no matter how politely the coach had carried out this decision, Yuya, who was getting subbed off, wasn't happy about this decision. More so when he had finally scored a goal. Hurry up, the match is about to start. One of the fans who currently was rushing towards the stand urged her colleague, who currently was carrying a large quantity of food in his hands, to hurry up. Instead of urging me to hurry up, it would be more efficient to help me carry this load, wouldn't it? Her colleague responded while sounding annoyed by her urging instead of helping him carry all this load by himself. Ugh, just why do you need so much food? Sounding extremely annoyed, she reluctantly took some load off of him and sprinted towards the stands. By the time she walked out of the hallway, she noticed that already more than 5 minutes had passed, which caused her expression to turn bitter. Because of her friend's cravings, she had missed 5 minutes. There in the field, Shun was about to perform a goal kick. And by the looks of it, it seemed like he was going to send the ball flying into the opposing half. Would it be one of those tactics he had used in the international tournament where he would send the ball flying towards Hiro? The audience, as they witnessed the scene taking place on the field, were filled with anticipation. Tightly clutching onto their seats, they kept their eyes fixated on Shun. But soon, most of them contorted their face out of disappointment as they witnessed him playing a short pass instead. Disappointed cries left out the mouth of many onlookers as a soft cry of disappointment echoed in the stands. Oh, it seems like we were expecting for nothing. Even the commentators expressed their disappointment. No sooner had the ball left the post, Takumi, the striker of the opposing team, rushed towards the ball, trying to put pressure and intimidate Ihara. Ihara, being a skilled right back, kept his composure as he easily handled the pressure from Takumi as if it wasn't a big deal. Not only did he remain cool-headed upon facing Takumi, he even made a fool out of Takumi by passing the ball to his teammate right under the nose of Takumi. Displaying his ability to remain calm under pressure, Ihara demonstrated why he was one of the core players of Kawasaki, which right now was flooding with many skilled players. Currently, Hiro was deep within his half as well. However, unlike before, he wasn't getting chased by multiple players. Instead, players of the opposing team were positioning themselves well and bolstering their formation. And Hiro, being quite observant of his surrounding, immediately noticed this tactical changes made by the opposing team. Still, it was rather convenient for him to operate from the deep since there weren't many players bugging him. As long as it was his own half, he was free to move, which in turn provided him better mobility and helped him maneuver his plays even better. Goal scoring wasn't the only thing Hiro was good at. He was also a skilled passer and a chance creator. Provide him a small gap, and he would exploit that gap with his explosive dribbles and acceleration. And allowing him a shooting space was akin to inviting doom as well. Thus, while facing Hiro, opposing team needed to be extra careful. And right now, they were fully displaying their carefulness without any error as well. Whenever he tried to move upfield, multiple opposing players would come rushing towards him. And even when moving in his own half, a player would tail him like his shadow, never leaving his side. They were also careful while following him, since he was a player of high stamina and endurance. If same player followed him all the time, he was bound to get exhausted, which then would lead to a hole being created in their formation. Thus, to prevent such scenario from happening, they were constantly changing players who tailed him. It was like each player was allocated a zone of their own. And whenever he entered their zone, they would come rushing towards him while the previous player would vigilantly make way for the new player. One could even say that it was an anti-Hiro tactic, a tactic specially designed to stop Hiro. But just like every other tactics which has its own strength and weaknesses, this tactic was bound to falter sooner or later as well. It was only a matter of time before it collapsed. Although Hiro struggled for a while because of this tactic, given his failure to advance forward, but Hiro was slowly adapting to this tactic, and in fact he had already figured out several ways to break free through this cage-like tactics that was specifically designed to imprison him. You've prepared well, managerkin. Receiving the ball from his teammate inside his own half, Hiro thought, as he felt amused by the tactic used by the opposing team's manager. But if you put too much emphasis on one single person, then you're bound to lose the sight of the bigger picture. Exactly as mentioned by Hiro, he wasn't the only skilled player in his team. He was cut above the rest, but there were equally amazing players on his team who could carry the game. Neglecting those players and focusing solely on him would definitely create opportunities for the rest of his teammates. Chapter 334, Opportunity at Last. And that's what Hiro did as well. After receiving the ball in his own half, he supplied one after another passes to his teammates who were charging forward. By doing this, he gave the opposing players absolutely no chances to stick to him. But even while carrying out such tactic, at first Hiro would intentionally keep hold of the ball, and only when the opposing player assigned to mark him would approach close enough to him, he would pass the ball to his teammates. It was like he was luring monkeys towards him by providing them the temptation of banana. Not only such actions of Hiro greatly annoyed the opposing players, it also drained the energy of the opposing players. Hiro was attacking his opponents both physically and mentally. After all, who would like to make a fool out of themselves, and that too on multiple occasions? Signs of exhaustion and annoyance was getting quite evident on the field, with players of Aomori charging more vigorously whenever Hiro had possession of the ball. TCH. Failing to snatch the ball away from Hiro, one of the opposing player bitterly clicked his tongue. Hiro, however, upon noticing his distressful state, mused inwardly as he rushed forward to attack. Based on his evaluation of the emotional state of the opposing players, Hiro knew that they were about to hit their limits. And whenever someone goes out of control, they're bound to make mistakes. And currently Hiro was waiting for that opportunity. No sooner had he guessed that the opposing players were about to hit their limit, an opportunity arose in the field in the form of a set piece. One of their midfielder fouled Renji, who was moving up the field after receiving a pass from Hiro. Immediately upon noticing the figure of Renji rolling on the floor after getting tackled by one of the midfielder of Aomori High School, referee, while sounding his whistle, rushed towards the scene. Reaching towards his pocket, he then brought out a yellow card and shoved it towards the player who had fouled Renji. Immediately, many opposing players started to refute as they expressed their dissatisfaction about referee's decision. Surrounding the referee, they started to complain and appeal. But referee, upon hearing their complaints, only became even more irritated. Trying to get out of their encirclement, he remained adamant about his decision and shunned their plea completely. It seems like that players of Aomori are not happy about referee's decision. What do you think of this situation, Sakamoto? Well, judging by the referee's attitude, he may book even more players if this situation continues, given that he looks adamant about his decision. Some of the home fans of Aomori, despite their dissatisfaction upon witnessing the commotion taking place on the field, started turning anxious. A fear of seeing more of their players getting booked, or even worse, getting sent off, started gnawing them. While most of the fans of Aomori hauled indignant curses towards the referee as they shot gaze full of disdain towards the referee. How was that yellow card, ref? That shouldn't even be a foul. All he did was stop an impending threat. Are you blind, ref? Or did you get bought? Most of the annoyed home fans presented their own verdict as they tried to justify the action of their player, while the away fans enjoyed the scene taking place on the field. Not only did they thoroughly enjoy the scene, they also chided with the referee and insisted him to book more of the opposing players for their act of misconduct. What's with their rude attitude towards the referee after committing a foul? They should get sent off for such rude behavior against the referee. Exactly, first they bring our player down, and now they're even complaining. With every passing second, the situation at the field was getting even more heated and chaotic. Both the referee and the opposing players were refusing to yield to each other. If the opposing players continued to press on the referee like that, sure enough, he'd be forced to bring his cards out. Given their already grievous situation, it was quite reasonable for the opposing team to act that way. After all, they were already losing by 2 goals, and a set piece at that spot could very well increase the gap further, which they absolutely wanted to avoid. But pushing the referee to his limit was equally lethal. Thus, after while some of their players sensed that the referee wouldn't change his decision no matter what, they started withdrawing. Fortunately enough, they acted on time and prevented the referee from bringing out more of his cards. In football, whether you like it or not, referees' decisions are absolute, and no one can question it. And players of Aomori, although were aware of this, because of their situation, they had momentarily forgotten about this universal rule. Finally, after some while, as players of the opposing team willingly backed down, situation returned to normal on the field. If only they would have done this from the beginning, they'd not have irritated the referee and left negative impressions on him. And falling in favor with referee would only make the situation even worse. Now, because of their attitude towards him, referee was paying even more attention towards the opposing players and was being even more strict. Please go back and let me do my job. The referee urged the players of Aomori to retract their steps while he sprayed a vanishing spray to mark the spot for the free kick. Just as the referee finished marking the spot, Hiro walked towards the ball. For sure, the player who was going to take this set piece from Kawasaki's side was Hiro. And based on the expression the opposing players were making, it seemed like they were already expecting this to happen. Currently, however, as they stood in front of Hiro acting as wall, one could vividly see the fear and anxiousness lingering in their eyes. Sure enough, they were wary of Hiro. Having one of the best free kick conversion rate in entire league, they knew what this player was capable of, so why wouldn't they be wary of him? The reason why they made a fuss out of this free kick, despite it being quite far away from the post, was because of this guy as well. And right now, as they stood face to face against this monster of a player, many of them held their breath as they steeled themselves to somehow land a touch on the ball. They also prepared one of their players to lay down on the floor to prepare against surprise ground shots. Chapter 335, Post-Match Interview. Retracting few steps back from the ball, Hiro stood upright at a certain distance away from the ball with his arms extended outwards and legs spread. Amidst the sea of players and deafening roar of the crowd, Hiro's concentration sharpened as he made use of his skill focus. Suddenly, the entire stadium went silent as he fixated his eyes towards the ball and the post. No longer bothered by the distractions present around him at this moment, Hiro felt as if the time around him had slowed down. At the same time, his senses heightened as his focus peaked. Right now, all he could see was the ball and his target, the goal. Inhaling a deep breath, he let out a mouth full of turbid air before rushing towards the ball. His sweat-drenched jersey billowed as the eyes of his teammates in the back line converged on the number 10 behind his back. Thousands of eyes converged at him, placing their expectation on him, while at the same time, many held their breath as they looked at him with eyes full of anticipation and worry. Hiro's gaze, however, was locked onto the distant target, while at the same time his mind filtered out almost all the noise coming from the stands. Bam! Immediately the players who had readied themselves as walls, their muscles coiled like a tightly wounded spring primed for release as they leaped from the ground, trying their hardest to make contact with the ball and somehow divert the ball. But they were left disappointed as none of them managed to reach the ball. As the ball sailed through the towering walls of player of the opposing team, a sudden surge of confidence coursed through the veins of players of Kawasaki like wildfire. Sparks of joy flashed in their eyes while at the same time, a feeling of elation enveloped them. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as the ball soared, defying gravity as it sliced through the air. The crowd's gasps turned to silence as they watched Hiro's masterpiece unfolding before their eyes. It was a glorious sight to behold, a fierce, swerving trajectory that left the opposing goalkeeper rooted at a spot. It was like he had turned into one of those thousands of mere spectators who were witnessing this magnificent scene unfold in the pitch. Most of his vision had already been clouded by his teammates, which had already made his job of saving the ball difficult. But to top it all, the ball moved so fast that he couldn't even react. Finally, as the net bulged with the impact of the ball's formidable force, the crowd erupted with a joyous cacophony. Goal! At once, a thunderous sound of celebration echoed in the stadium, shaking the stadium to its core. Although a bit muffled, but cries of disappointment did reverberate throughout the stadium as well. But since the sounds of celebration was so loud that it completely masked the cries of despair, mirroring the elation of the crowd, Hiro's teammates rushed towards him to celebrate the goal, wearing ecstatic smile on their faces. Hiro, on the other hand, giving in to the emotions of the crowd, rushed towards the sidelines to celebrate this goal he had scored from the spot. Raising his one hand above, he mimicked a gesture as if he was throwing an energy disc at the stands while shouting at the top of his lungs, "Hi!" Not sure why he did that or what inspired him to make such gesture, but the crowd thoroughly enjoyed his celebratory gestures as many of them tried to mimic his celebratory gestures and parroted after him, "Ha!" In that triumphant moment, both the supporters and the players of Kawasaki let them lose as they celebrated this goal for quite a long time. In fact, even after the end of celebration, people kept on talking about how amazing that free kick was. It was etched in their memories. After that third goal from Kawasaki, many of the opposing players lost their hearts as they succumbed to their fate. With the performance of Kawasaki improving every second and not showing any signs of deterioration, it became extremely hard for them to return even a single goal. That goal was like a morale booster. Players of the opposing team tried multiple times to score a goal, but to no avail. They simply couldn't get even a goal back, which forced them into defense. Just like this, after some relentless attacking and defending from both the side, the game came to an end with Aomori losing the game with a score of 3-0. Final score of the match read, as such, Aomori 0 versus Kawasaki 3. Given the stats of the match, where Kawasaki mostly dominated the attacking charts, one could even say that this game was totally one-sided. Hiro, can we have a moment of your time? Some reporters rushed towards Hiro right after the end of the match when he was returning to his locker room. Faced with their request, Hiro turned to look at his manager, asking for his permission. Manager Makoto slightly nodded his head, giving him his approval. Sure. After getting the approval of his manager, Hiro answered the reporter. The reporter then led Hiro to a bright place so that they could get a better footage of him. Nonetheless, Hiro followed them obediently. And as they got to the spot, the reporter handed him a microphone. Focusing the camera towards Hiro, the reporter then began to ask him some questions. So how does it feel to be back at the league? So many people came to welcome us. So yes, I feel extremely exhilarated to be back. Hiro answered enthusiastically with a smile on his face. Since you have already bagged many MVP awards, I'll not go there. But can you tell us about that impressive free kick goal you scored? Like what was going on in your mind, or whether you practiced those kind of shots in training? Anything can be helpful. Sure enough, the way that reporter was asking questions and initiating the conversation, Hiro could tell that this reporter in front of him was skilled. You flatter me too much. To be honest with you, I don't practice free kicks much in the training. But yet while taking free kick, I try to visualize the goal. I try to visualize the trajectory of the ball. Haha, it's not anything special, but while taking free kick or any other spot kick, I try to remain as calm as possible. Hiro answered in somewhat awkward manner. Since he couldn't tell that he actually uses some game-like skills to score free kicks, he couldn't come up with a better excuse. Thus, his answers were rather ambiguous. Listening to his words and looking at his body language, one would barely think that this awkward player was the same player who had scored that brilliant free kick previously. Chapter 336 Brand Endorsement. Receiving views in millions, likes in thousands, Hiro's short post-match interview blew up. It was unlike any event before. An interview of a 14-year-old kid receiving this much attention and appreciation was truly phenomenal. And given the response he had garnered, not only ordinary people's but even some brands took notice of him. The next day, early in the morning, when manager Makoto had just returned to his cabinet after morning training, he noticed countless calls from unidentified sources. Who could they be? Picking up his phone, he pondered as he began to scroll down with somewhat flabbergasted and doubtful expression. As he scrolled down, he noticed that the calls weren't the only thing that he had received. There were a lot of messages as well. BRR. BRR. Just when he was about to open up a message, his phone started ringing. The number on the screen, once again, was unidentifiable. Yet, even so, he picked the call with somewhat confused and dubious look on his face. No sooner had he picked the call, a feminine voice resonated from the phone. Hello, sir. I'm Manao Hashimura, spokesperson of Mizuno. Would you be willing to spare some of your time to discuss a potential brand endorsement deal for one of your players? The atmosphere in the sleek, modern conference room was serene as Hiro sat poised along with manager Makoto, who had volunteered to come with him. The room was rather bright, and the ambience was quite serene and quiet, given its location at a major hub. Suddenly, a lady dressed immaculately in a tailored navy suit entered the room, exuding an air of confidence and authority. Immediately, manager Makoto stood upright as he began to prepare his greeting to address this lady, who was accompanied by few other men immaculately dressed in office suit. Hiro too followed suit as he stood up from his chair. Before arriving here, he had already been informed about the potential brand endorsement offer he had received from one of the famous Japanese sport brand called Mizuno. With a large market share, it was one of the dominating sports brand wearing all over Japan. And currently, he was going to discuss a potential brand endorsement contract with this famous sports brand. Just to receive such an offer was quite unbelievable given his age. Thus, right now, Hiro was quite excited about this meeting. But because of his age, he right now needed an acting guardian who could take his responsibility. And since both Eric and his parents were unavailable at the moment, manager Makoto had volunteered to be his acting guardian in their stead. Displaying a sweet smile on her face, the lady greeted him and manager Makoto. It's a pleasure to meet you, manager Makoto. And we are delighted to have you here, Hiro. I called you about discussing a potential brand endorsement this morning. I hope you remember me, manager Makoto. Laughing out loud, manager Makoto answered, Haha, of course I remember you. Then shall we sit and discuss? Pointing at the chair, she offered in an amicable manner. Sure. Manager Makoto replied as he took his seat. No sooner had they taken their seats, those men who had accompanied her handed a contract, and the lady in turn handed those contract to manager Makoto and Hiro. Before we proceed further, I have already informed both your parents and your agent, and both of them have decided to go on with your decision, Hiro. Also, I have already sent a copy of those contracts to your agent, and he had found no flaws in it. Still, if you'd like to add or remove some things, do tell me. The lady dressed in suit spoke. The lady had really come prepared, and by the looks of how she was handling this situation, it seemed like she really knew what she was doing. After a moment of going through the lengthy contract, neither manager Makoto nor Hiro found any faults in it, and the requirements of the contract wasn't exaggerating either. In fact, one could even say that this contract was prepared with utmost care and concern for Hiro. The duration of the contract wasn't long, and it only lasted until his 18th birthday, though there was a clause that allowed him to renew and extend the contract. Also, the pay was good, but there was one thing a little bit unsatisfactory to Hiro. He had shoot advertisement, and he had to attend some events organized by the company. The lady spokesperson immediately caught the whiff of his dissatisfaction. So to appease his dissatisfaction, she tried to reassure him. As the spokesperson of our esteemed sports brand based in Japan, it is my duty to ensure our company aligns itself with the best talents, those who embody our core values of perseverance, excellence, and determination, she began as her word resonated with conviction. And we have found those qualities in Hiro. Through our thorough analysis, we have found that you could be the next superstar emerging from our nation. So while taking such thoughts into consideration, we have prepared this contract with utmost concern and importance. Pausing briefly, she continued with her voice taking a hint of urgency. So I hope we both can come to an agreement without much alteration, since we have already given you the privilege that no other companies in this field could offer. Manager Makoto, upon hearing her word, nodded his head in satisfaction as he agreed with her. In fact, a contract like this for a 14-year-old kid was already miraculous. Not only the pay was great, the company was even allocating him some shares and percentage in the net sales profit. Not to mention about the vision and ideas the company had planned with Hiro in the lead. They were going to make him one of the key figure. It was truly marvelous. A contract Hiro would regret upon refusing, although those clauses relating to advertisements bugged him. Nevertheless, Hiro accepted the contract with a smile on his face as he presented his verdict after going through the contract. I'd be happy to join this amazing organization. Upon hearing those words, her face blossomed like a flower as an intense feeling of elation overcame her. Thank you for deciding to sign with us. You've made the right choice. Extending her hands forward, she spoke with her eyes glistening with joy. Takahashi Hiro, welcome on board. We look forward to working with you. Reflecting the passion and joy, Hiro extended his arms as he grabbed hers. I'll be under your care, ma'am. Please take care of me. Chapter 337 Preparation for a Commercial. What is everyone doing? Why has the set not been prepared yet? An angry voice resonated as an old man dressed immaculately in khaki pants entered a spacious room equipped with cameras, lights, and many other equipment which are mostly used for shooting. Immediately upon hearing his furious yell, many of the people who were going on with their tasks became startled as they contorted their face in horror. Sorry, sir. We'll get it done right away. A lady with glasses came rushing towards the old man and apologized as she tried to appease the anger of that old man, who right now was fuming. Everybody move fast. We have to finish it quick. She urged those people working currently to speed up. Still sounding somewhat grumpy, the old man replied in rather annoyed and furious tone, putting the blame on the people present there. Were you all sleeping? I go out for a minute, and everything becomes a mess. The lady with the glasses, however, despite hearing his thorny words, kept on apologizing to him docilely, without any signs of retaliation. Move your leg fast, Nagano. Haven't you have anything to eat? What are you doing, Satsuki? Move those lights more to the right. The man continued to spew acid as he nagged and complained without any stop, yet nobody retorted or dared to go up against him. After some while, a man came rushing towards the scene, drenched in sweat. He spoke in a hurried manner. The male model has arrived, sir. Immediately upon hearing those simple words, his already irritated mood became even more irritated as he cried out in frustration and fury. Arg! Now, look, the model have already arrived, and yet we haven't completed preparing the set. No sooner had those words escaped his mouth. Instinctively, everybody working there braced themselves for the impact that was about to come. Can't you all do one thing in time for once? Why does every time, when I'm not present at the set, such problems arise? Just can't you do one thing properly without me for once? The old man berated the people working there as he shot gaze full of disdain towards them. Even though most of them had already expected this follow-up, still hearing those words made their heart bleed. They were fully accustomed with the director's personality, but even so, who would like to hear such nagging every time? Not only my staff members are unprofessional now, I even have to attend to this amateur who doesn't have any experience in acting, the old man grumbled as he annoyedly strode towards the exit. If not for being a huge deal, I wouldn't even have paid any attention to this kid in the first place. Who cares if he's a huge deal or not? I wonder how many shots would I have to retake today? Accompanied by a staff member from Mizuno, Hiro made his way towards the studio for recording an advertisement. It hadn't been that long since he had signed that brand endorsement deal with Mizuno, and here he was already forced to shoot a commercial. At least they could have provided me with an acting instructor to learn some acting first. Now what am I supposed to do? Go and stand there? Hiro thought as he walked towards the studio where the shooting was going to take place. Though, he remained expressionless from outside. But obviously, he was not happy. More than unhappiness and dissatisfaction, he was rather nervous right now. After all, it was his first commercial. Yes, he had appeared in the screen on multiple occasions, but he had never acted before. Sure, he did have a YouTube channel in his early days, but he had never acted even in that. All he could do was demonstrate his skills, and acting wasn't his forte. Even before starting, Hiro, knowing his situation, knew it for sure that he was screwed. Hello, Director Serizawa. It's a pleasure to meet you. Displaying an amicable smile on his face, the person who was sent by the company to act as his caretaker until the end of the shooting spoke as he addressed that old man with utmost respect and hospitality. Upon hearing the words of his caretaker, immediately Hiro composed himself as he bowed his head, introducing himself and greeting this old man in front of him. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I am Takahashi Hiro. Please take care of me. Hiro tried to be as much polite as he could, and while doing so, he didn't hold back himself from showing respect to this fellow in front of him. Since he couldn't get out of this situation, and since he had to work with him, having a better relationship with the director would surely come in handy. Thus, with such thoughts in mind, Hiro spoke with utmost respect and sincerity to flatter this old man from whom he could sense dissatisfaction even from far. Director Serizawa, who until a moment ago looked quite tensed. A smile blossomed in his face as he addressed both his caretaker and him in a gentle manner. So you're that famous footballer who has managed to captivate the hearts of many of our country's fellow citizens, huh? You do look quite young for someone who has attained so much success. And you've got a pretty handsome face, on top of those amazing footballing talents. If anybody from his crew were to see this side of him, they would have probably thrown off by now. After all, his personality had took a 360-degree turn in a matter of seconds. Was he the same person who was spewing acid back then? Just then, while they were conversing, a girl dressed immaculately in black skirt and white shirt made her appearance on the scene. Her captivating black eyes, speckled with hints of mystery and intrigue, while her lustrous jet black hair, cascading down her head, dangled freely as she made her way toward the scene, accompanied by a male who was holding an umbrella, shading her from the sun. Perfect timing. Director Serizawa, upon taking notice of this girl, exclaimed enthusiastically, "Your compatriot who'll be working with you has arrived as well." Hearing his words, Hiro slightly turned his head to look at the girl. Chapter 340 Endurance Training. The sky was painted with the brushstrokes of pale pink and soft orange, while the sun peeked the landscape from the east horizon. Its first rays were like gentle fingers of light, gracefully reaching out and caressing the sleeping earth, while the surface resonated along with its touch as it seemed to come alive with its touch. At this moment, some moving silhouette could be seen on a certain grassy field, while sounds of heavy gasps could be heard. Anybody who fails to finish the laps will have to run extra 20 laps. A loud yet commanding voice echoed. Yet even this loud voice seemed to harmonize with this peaceful morning. Yes, sir. No sooner had that voice dissipated, a unified roar filled with determination and vigor followed. Currently, Hiro and his teammates of U17 team were running laps around a football field in a unified procession. Don't stop your legs, guys. Keep on moving. Just 7 more laps. A guy dressed in black track pants was giving command from the sidelines while they all continued their march. Although every single one of them were answering obediently, but the reality was quite harsh. Some of them right now were beyond exhausted, and most of them were only putting up a farce. 30 laps on the first day? Are you kidding with me? Huff. Are we training for marathon or football? Huff. Give me a break already. As they continued to run laps, most of them while struggling to keep up with the intensity of a training wind. Hiro, however, had no problems with such endurance training at all. It was just 10 more laps than his regular 20 laps around the field. In fact, right now, let alone running out of breath, he wasn't even trying his best. While most of his teammates were already wobbling, he was running as if he was jogging. Shun, on the other hand, was sweating profusely. Struggling to breathe, he was gasping heavily. Just looking at his miserable state, one could conjure that he was exhausted beyond his limit. Yet even so, his eyes said otherwise. Those tired eyes were more sharper and determined than most of the players present on the field at the moment. Those eyes were a testament to his strong will and determination. If only those who were whining could witness those spark in his eyes, maybe they'd have changed their way of thinking as well. Soon enough, holes started to appear in this seemingly perfect procession as some players started to lag behind. Many of them couldn't keep up and fell behind. Even so, none of them were willing to stop their legs, as none of them wished to run another 20 laps around the field. Seeing their miserable state, Hiro felt quite pitiful of them. But somewhere in his heart, he also felt disappointed. Running mere 30 laps around the field could force them in such situation, then how were they going to survive against those teams with monstrous endurance? No doubt, they were good players. But to beat the best, simply being good wasn't enough. After all, to beat the best, you have to surpass the best. And the best couldn't be surpassed with such feeble mindset. To add salt to their wound, Hiro, who wasn't putting any effort until now, started to act. At this moment, when their formation was already in a mess, even if he acted out, he wouldn't get scolded by his coach. With such thought in mind, all of a sudden, he accelerated. It was as if he had extra pair of lungs. His abrupt acceleration startled a lot of his teammates, but he didn't care. Seriously? Doesn't he ever get tired? Is he trying to show off? Several players cried out upon witnessing his acceleration. No sooner had he accelerated, he immediately finished another lap and caught with his stranded teammates who were gasping heavily and running as if they were on the verge of collapse. But instead of encouraging or being empathetic towards their condition, Hiro mocked them instead. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Even a keeper has surpassed you. There was truth in his words. After all, Shun, despite being a keeper, was quite ahead of some of the players who played as defenders. Those words of Hiro cut deep as they felt their stomach churning with fury. All of a sudden, they then increased their pace. Simpletons, Hiro, upon seeing the increase in their pace, mused. After some while, as the last person collapsed on the ground, completing his share of 30 laps around the field, they were given a 15-minute break. Huff, huff. Bodies piled on the ground while hurried gasps escaped the mouth of many exhausted players. Almost every single one of them had exhausted their whole energy completing this lapse. Smell of sweat lingered in the air as their sweat-drenched body rested atop the grass. However, at this moment, an inspiration struck Hiro as he decided to try something different, something he had seen Matteo do countless times. Sprinting alongside the ball, he imagined exact movements executed by Matteo. Not only did he try to imitate exact same movements of Matteo, he even recalled the movements of the opposing players who rushed towards Matteo. With a burst of speed, his feet danced along with the ball. Imaginary opposing players lunged towards him, desperate to disrupt his rhythm, but he still glided past them effortlessly like he was dancing along the field. What is he doing? Several confused eyes looked at him with dazed expression. But soon enough, as they witnessed this flawlessly executed moves, it enthralled them. His dribbling was akin to poetry in motion, a symphony of delicate touches and lightning-fast reactions. Some of them even imagined the movement of those imaginary opponents inside Hiro's head. and seeing those imaginary opponents made them even more curious and excited. At this moment, while Hiro executed his flawless dribbling, gasps of admiration filled the air. Finally, as he twisted his body and made the final shot to complete his set of movements, a notification rung in his head. Congratulations for completing the quest. Chapter 339 Nebula. About a week after that commercial was shot, it was aired on the screen. Putting great emphasis to the commercial, Mizuno spared no efforts to market this commercial to the people. Their marketing team spent day and night booking LED billboards in various parts of Japan to broadcast this commercial. In Shibuya Crosswalk, one of the busiest places on earth where people wouldn't even stop for a moment as the commercial started playing on the big screens placed on towering skyscrapers, many people took notice of it. "Koda, isn't it Big Brother Hiro?" a boy asked as he pointed towards the advertisement screen of one of the store. "It is Big Brother Hiro." Nodding his head, Koda, who right now was goofing around with his friends, answered in an excited tone. "Damn, he looks so cool. Yeah, I'm going to tell my mom to buy me the same boot Big Brother Hiro is wearing in that advertisement." "Me too." Satsuki fill me with the details regarding that ad campaign we've launched. Hurrying her way towards her office, a lady dressed immaculately in coffee-colored suit spoke in a commanding manner. Running towards her, another lady answered as she presented the reports. "Yes, ma'am. Based on the sales improvement we've had in recent weeks, we can assume that the campaign is a huge success. Since its launch, we've already sold out our inventory, and we also have more than 10,000 orders in pending." Giving a satisfying nod, she murmured, "Good. We'll continue to ride this momentum and sell even more." "Yes, ma'am." The lady who was filling her with the reports responded. "It seems like we still underestimated your influence," Takahashi Hiro Nanao thought as she leaned her back against her chair. Suddenly a sinister smile bloomed on her face as she murmured, "You're our golden goose, Takahashi Hiro." Achoo! Hiro let out an abrupt sneeze. Wiping his nose, he murmured, "Did I stay too long in shower today? Or somebody could be talking about you." Shun, who was seated right next to him, joked. "Well, given that he has become even a bigger star, who knows if it's only one person or a whole town, haha." Another of his teammate joined the conversation as he teased Hiro. No sooner had those words escaped his mouth, everyone around him burst into laughter, due to which, all of a sudden it became extremely lively around them. Currently, all of them were inside the team bus, heading towards their next destination to face their 20th opponent of the season. Right now, they were sitting in the second position with a game at their hand. If they managed to win even this game, then once again, they'd move to the first position. This match, however, was the last match Hiro and Shun could attend. After this match, they'd have to join the national team for a closed-door training session to prepare for the big tournament. Under-17 World Cup. Dare to Dream, Mizuno. Few of his teammates started imitating his roles in the commercial, and they seemed quite serious when they did so. The follow-up, however, was only laughter of happiness and carefreeness. "All right, they developed a whole new product for you, right, Hiro?" solemnly asked Akihiro, with curiosity flashing his eyes. "Yeah, it is totally new brand developed for only you, isn't it?" Another player chimed in. Nodding his head, Hiro answered, "Yeah, it's called Nebula." "Nebula?" As in those gigantic masses of cloud or fog in the sky responsible for creation of stars and galaxies. Curiously asked one of his teammates who recognized that term immediately. "Well, not sure. But they did say something like, you're a star in the process of making, and it is believed that nebulas are star-forming region. So, this boot is a nebula because you'll be a star formed in this boot someday," Hiro answered in a profound way. The way Hiro answered about the naming of the boot designed for him sounded so grand and profound that it immediately captivated the hearts of many of his teammates. Whoa! Mesmerized by his words, many of them stared at him with sparkling eyes. "Do you want to see it? I forgot to show this to you all before," Hiro questioned. In a unified voice, many of them responded in rather irritated tone, "Why didn't you show it before?" Hiro himself had actually gotten these boots delivered to him just this morning. So, he simply didn't have enough time to show it to his friends. And the one he wore in the commercial was a prototype sample. It wasn't the finished product, which is why he had no access to the boots. But now as he mentioned about the boots, it piqued everybody's interest. Previously, when they had tried asking him about the boot, he had answered that the one he had wore on the commercial was merely a prototype, and the real one would take some time to finish. However, now, as they heard about the information of the availability of the boot from him, they simply couldn't hold back themselves from trying to see the real deal. After all, almost everybody knows that original boots used by the players are made differently than the replicas sold in the store. Apart from the design, almost everything is different. Especially the materials used to manufacture in huge quantities are totally different. Well, it's quite obvious why they do it. It's to save the cost and make it affordable. After all, the original product would cost a lot, and not everybody would be able to buy it. And this is disadvantageous for both the company and public. The company would suffer losses and lose potential customers. On the other hand, general public wouldn't get access to the thing they want. As if Hiro was taking out treasure from his bag, everybody curiously focused their gaze on his hands. Countless light patterns, such as purple, red, green, merged together in a dark background with many dots of light resembling a nebula perfectly. The design of the boot was quite eye-catching and mesmerizing. It was truly a sight to behold and one of its kind. Chapter 338, Commercial Shooting. Just at the time his eyes landed on her, the two of their eyes met for a split second before that girl rolled her eyes away from him, giving him cold shoulder. Not the friendly one, huh? Hiro thought to himself upon experiencing her coldness. But still he couldn't deny the fact that she was indeed pretty. However, from her, Hiro could also feel an aura of haughtiness emanating from her. It's a pleasure to meet you again, Director Sarazawa. I hope you're doing fine. The girl spoke in her sweet voice as she politely addressed the director. It was unlike her previous attitude towards Hiro, where she had outrightly ignored him to his face, giving him the cold shoulder. Sounding extremely cheerful, Director Sarazawa greeted her back. You're still as polite as ever, Kagura. All right, allow me to introduce you to your compatriot who'll be working together with you in this commercial. Saying so, he turned towards Hiro. He's Takahashi Hiro. You must have heard about him, right? Bowing his head slightly, Hiro introduced himself. Hello, I'm Takahashi Hiro. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is my first time shooting a commercial. So, I'll be under your care. Displaying his sincerity, he greeted the girl. The pleasure is all mine. I'm Kagura Osaraji. The girl returned the greeting with as much sweetness as she had displayed before. A moment ago, when the two of them had locked eyes, she had immediately rolled her eyes away from him. But right now, the same girl was acting so friendly towards him. Experiencing such radical change in her attitude, Hiro was quite mesmerized. While they're actors for a reason, Hiro thought to himself as he tried to justify her actions. From the beginning, he hadn't paid any heed to her actions. And it's not like he wanted to befriend her or impress her. If not for the commercial, he wouldn't even have shot a glance at her. After all, why would he trouble himself with the attitude of teen girl? If she wanted to act as if the world revolved around her, then so be it. That had nothing to do with him. After some while, as the two of them dressed up and appeared on the set, the director explained them their roles. Since Hiro was a complete beginner, the staff members had to pay extra attention to him. Action! Shouted the director. Drenched in sweat, Kagura collapsed on the ground as she exhausted herself. Huff! Huff! Why? Panting heavily, she shouted in pain with moisture building up in her eyes. Her seemingly pretty face was smeared with dirt, while there were some apparent bruises in her hands and legs. Right now, she was dressed in a tattered jersey smeared with dirt. I've tried so hard. I worked so hard for it. Saying so in her teary voice, she covered her face as she paused momentarily before murmuring weakly, "Yet why?" Abruptly, she slammed the ground as she spoke with her voice filled with regret, rage, sadness, and helplessness. Why am I not chosen? What more do you want from me, God? Are you mocking my efforts, or are you saying that I'm not talented enough? Her scream filled with helplessness and fury resonated through the air as she continued to wail. With her mouth running dry, She now had nothing left to say. Even if she complained and wailed, there was nobody to hear her. The only thing left right now was loneliness and the conflict she had within her heart. After she stopped complaining, suddenly an eerie silence engulfed the surrounding around her. Right at this moment, however, she heard faint sound of something. Thud, thud. The sound was extremely muffled, yet audible enough to be heard. At first, she thought she was imagining things. But the more she concentrated her attention towards it, the more it became clear. The tears in her eyes had yet to dry, but that faint sound piqued her interest. She was sure that nobody beside her was present in the ground at this moment. Wiping off her tears, she then curiously followed the source of the sound she had been hearing for quite a while by now. Following the sound, she found herself in the backside of her school building. And at this place, the sound became even more intense. Based on the intensity of the sound, she concurred that she wasn't the only person who was present here. But who could it be? And why does this sound so familiar? Several thoughts arose in her mind as she became extremely dubious. But still mustering up her courage, she decided to take a peek. Carefully, while hiding behind the walls, she slightly lifted her head with utmost vigilance, afraid to give her away and startle the person. A silhouette of a person became clear, and as she followed that silhouette, she found a boy, completely exhausted, sweating profusely, drenched in sweat, and was in a much more miserable state than her. Casting long shadows across the clearing, sun had already drawn closer to the horizon, painting the whole sky in its dying colors. Even so, amidst the fading light, the boy's movement was getting more pronounced, resembling a seamless synchronization with the setting sun. Isn't he Satsuki? Why is he pushing himself so far? He isn't even selected for the team. So why are you pushing so hard? She questioned her mind as she recognized the boy in front. Bam! Bam! Multiple times he collapsed on the ground. Even so, he didn't stop kicking the ball. Just looking at his shaking legs, one could tell that he was beyond exhausted. For a moment, it seemed that even standing alone would be hard. Yet, he proved her wrong countless times as he stood on his legs and started kicking the ball against her expectation. Perspiration fell down his face without any pause as he continued to shoot. And even the light of the setting sun was embracing him, emphasizing his tenacity and resilience. Thud! Once again, he collapsed on the ground. Continuing to watch him, she had already forgotten how many times he had collapsed already until now. But however, unlike previous times, she couldn't hold back herself this time from asking him why he was pushing so far. Coming out her hiding, she spoke in a rather desperate tone. Why are you pushing yourself so far? You're not even selected in the team. Although hearing her voice startled him, Hiro, who was acting as this miserable boy, slowly lifted his head as he turned to face her. Unwavering determination flashed in his eyes as he spoke resolutely. Because I've got a dream to chase. Completing his sentence, he stood with great difficulty and again started towards the ball. However, this time, while he was trying to shoot, the camera focused on his boot and then performed a close-up of his face, capturing the emotions flawlessly. Dare to dream, Mizuno. And cut, director Serizawa, who seemed extremely exhausted, announced. No sooner had he announced the end of the commercial, a collective gasp escaped the mouth of the people present there as everybody heaved a deep sigh of relief. Phew! It was already the 9th retake after all, and thus, everybody were quite exhausted.